The Mutant Underground wants to stop the Inner Circle. Jace wants to stop all mutants, and Cate just wants to reunite her family. But each has to face the central question. What are you willing to do to get what you want? It's a blurred line between hero and villain. On this week's The Gifted, Season 2, Episode 4, Outmatched. Hey everyone, D here, and welcome to this week's review of The Gifted. So yes, of course, lots of spoilers coming your way. Yes! 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 Best episode of the season by far. Beautifully done. Yes, it had action, but it had the emotional weight that the show has really been working for, but it just kept everything moving at a beautiful rate. Really, this was top notch. This is the type of episodes that I've always seen the potential for The Gifted to have, and I think they knocked this one out of the park. Really, like I said, we had the emotional case, we had the family concerns, we have a little bit of action, we've got a little bit of creepiness, and we had some actual philosophical questions really addressed in this episode. Like I said in the opening, what are you willing to do to get what you want? And it was perfectly done because we focused a lot on our hero characters this week. The Inner Circle was just background for the most part. I mean, there's a little bit of interaction, a little bit of stuff going on, but really focusing on what our heroes are willing to do. Well, and Jace, but Jace again is a hero in his own sense, trying to be. And I think maybe that's sort of the bigger question is nobody really sees themselves as a villain. It's often that line crossing of what is it that you're willing to do? How far are you willing to go? So the fact that we really were dealing with a lot of those questions throughout this episode, I think, was really just a beautiful, poignant message to pay attention to. How even good people wanting the right things can overstep bounds, can go too far and find themselves very much like the people they're trying to stop. So let's kick this off with really Kaitlyns Story. I mean, it's the whole Strucker little family idea, but a lot of these points I think were focused mainly on Kaitlyn. And we saw in the opening sequence how difficult her pregnancy with Andy was, that there was a lot of danger of losing Andy, of possibly losing herself, her life, and Reed's willingness to, in a way, sacrifice Andy to keep his wife. I mean, a practical sense, not a dark, not an evil decision, just, hey, I love my wife, I don't want her to take a chance on something that could kill her, that may be dangerous. Again, a practical sense and standpoint. But it establishes right on Kaitlyn's view of her family, her son, her belief in doing the right thing and in fighting for her family. I mean, from the very get-go. So a lot of what happened really made a lot of sense with that bit of backstory. And I've really enjoyed Kaitlyn this season showing a lot harder edge. You know, in the first season she felt as kind of like the emotional, oh my God, everything's going on, we got to get the family together, really just reactive. Here, so much more proactive. You know, the other episode we had the big fight in Wire's in Wire's hack shop there, which I loved seeing. This one, I guess, kind of a continuation. Only, of course, Wire is gone. Sorry, Wire. The triplets got to him, made him blow his own brains out. Yeah, the cuckoos are scary individuals. But we got Graf this week. Wire's brother, not very cooperative, and understandable so, but a junkie, and that is something that Cate, with her medical knowledge, was able to use against him. And God, really some of the darkest scenes, certainly in this episode, and that we have had for a while. Cate willing to manipulate a junkie to get what she wanted to very dangerous ends. I mean, first off, okay, he's high, giving him the anti-drug to clean out his system and put him into immediate withdrawals. A very painful circumstance. And as a torture, really, that's what it is. This was all a type of torture that Cate was willing to do and did do, inflict on this on Graf, in order to get him to cooperate, to break into the system, to break into the files, to get what she wanted. So desperate to get Andy back, really willing to push aside everything else. And that was Cate's journey in this episode. Starting off with the anti-drug, putting Graf into withdrawals, and then when he had pushed himself to the point, throwing up in a bucket, to then go ahead and give him the pharmaceutical quality level of kick. Supercharge him in effect. It's like, okay, now you've gone through withdrawals, you've done everything you wanted. Okay, well, you want to do more stuff? Now we'll give you the really super good stuff. Oh, the kick is so good. It was just, really, really dark. And then again, even pushing, he goes as far as he can until it looks like Sage, working for the Inner Circle, able to kick him out of the system. Pops him again with another dose of that pharmaceutical grade K. And the extra bribe of, and you can take not just this bottle, everything we have in the clinic left. And never see us again, and go on your way to get what we want. Again, pushing to the point of overdose. Overdosed Graf in order to get what she wanted. And when he finally went down, Reed, I think, Reed was the perfect kind of balance for Cate in this episode. I mean, yeah, we saw in the beginning he was kind of being the more practical standpoint with what are you willing to risk in order to carry Andy to term. And now, so much wanting to get his family back together himself, but still being that objective point. You were a nurse. What are you doing? You're going to, again, torture this individual effectively in order to get what you want. And then you're going to drug him. Everything that is against that medical code. But ties it up after Graf goes out, really with that perfect line of, you know, we're trying to get Andy, but are we doing, what, if we're going to step this far, what is the difference between us and those we're trying to rescue Andy from? And that's it. That's the difference between the hero and the villain. How far are they willing to go? What lines are they going to cross? A hero realizes that he has to cut their losses and do the right thing at a point, whereas a villain effectively is selfish. Pursue it at all ends, no matter what the sacrifice. And this is where Cate was learning that lesson. And I'm hoping that this is the only time that she has to learn this lesson, that she got it and that it's drilled into her and she's not going to do it again, especially considering what it ends up costing her. Not just kind of her morals, but effectively even at the end, Lauren gets injured there. So she was at that point realizing how obsessive she does and what the cost is. We're going to sacrifice one child to try and get the other. Is that the line that you want to cross? I don't think so. And Lynwood Hospital, declaring mutants as unsafe and just locking them up. Yeah, not very much a nice place. Definitely something some of our characters have had a history with. Lorna specifically is mentioned that she was locked up in a similar type of facility when she was young, not really having a good effect on her, nor do I think it would. And overall, I have to say, I love the hospital sequence. It was nice because it was creepy. And again, we really had that different sort of tone that we have, less adventure-y. And again, they didn't have to do a whole lot. You get the lighting, you get the quiet movements, you make it all empty, a little bit of blood wiped on the walls, little handprints like that. just really nicely done. I loved how they set up that whole thing. I loved of having John and Clarice going in. John with his tomahawk and knife double weapons there was all beautifully done. Anyway, it was just, I loved that whole sequence there. I loved how the tonality was it, and sort of, again, it sort of got creepier as it went along. It's one thing to have that quiet, but as you go in and you're not seeing anything, and some of the inmates look like they're all locked and drugged up in their rooms. So you think it would be safe, but you're still getting that feeling that anybody could pop out around one of those corners at any moment. I thought was just beautifully done. This was obviously what Andy has been training for, was to break into the basement secured facilities that we had saw him doing the previous week. So again, all of this sort of makes sense once we see what's going on. My one little note that I did have with this is, okay, we have Graf going in and looking on all the monitor feeds and trying to get a look around and everything. When they finally spot him in the basement, and Reed's like, oh yeah, the secure facility where they put the really dangerous mutants, it's usually down in the basement. Shouldn't he have volunteered that a little bit earlier on? I mean, if he knows that the Inner Circle is going and attacking a hospital, shouldn't he have sort of brought that up? That would have made a whole lot more sense of where they were going. I mean, once he said that, it was like, well, what do you need all of the security feeds and stuff? Certainly to see if you can spot Andy or Lorna or any of the other Inner Circle members and get an accurate location of where they are. But you would think if they were breaking into a hospital that has secured dangerous mutants, and that would seem to be right up the alley for the Inner Circle, that might be where they're going. So that was the one little kind of with the sequence. But again, a minor bit, because I loved how they did the setting for all of that. And then when we finally get down to the basement, that is where things get interesting. And in fact, that is what I'm going to call our Scene of the Week for this week. And that is the encounter with Lorna in the basement. From beginning to end, a perfect, tight summation, really, of the entire episode. First, starting off with Clarice's question to John is, what exactly is your plan? And I think that's really, that kind of summed up everything, because the whole team has been in such a rush to get to the hospital to stop the Inner Circle. Even Marcos is pushing. This is the only lead that we've had. We've got to go. We got to go. What's happening? There's things crushed. They don't know what's happening. They don't know the plan for the Inner Circle. They don't know how many people are there. They're running into this completely blind. And they're going after their friends. So, yes, Clarice, what exactly is the plan here? And I don't think John even thought about that until she asked the question. And again, this was Clarice's job this entire episode, is the voice of reason. Let me be objective. You guys are going to run off to everything. At least somebody should be here to kind of calm you down. What is she quoted in the beginning there as they were heading to Wire's lair. But yeah, so that was perfect. That set up the scene with what are you going to do? And you can see that moment with John with like, what am I going to do? But reaches out, tries to talk a little bit of logic to Lorna, who was looking badass with the full hair there and everything, and quiet again. Nothing being said. I think that, that just added the extra element to it. And what's her perfect sense? Open up the doors! Let all of our dangerous basement level mutants out. And again, this is why, another reason why this was so good, because it was a quick shot of seeing dangerous mutants. You got a nice shot of Powers, the guy going through the walls, phasing through the walls. One guy gets stabbed and he's bleeding acid, alien-like on the ground. You got someone else that's just being pulled down the hallway. You've got the screamer who's coming out, disrupting. I mean, again, this quick thing, we saw this beautiful little montage of a cornucopia of mutant powers being released. And then, of course, the last question there is, we can't leave these people here. We have to help them. And this is where John really makes that heroic decision. So much of the opposite of what Cate had been dealing with. Cate willing to push everything to the side on the obsessive focus of getting Andy. Whereas John here has the point is like, look, this mission is done. We can't go after them anymore. We can't let these mutants, these prisoners run out. I mean, first of all, how long have they been imprisoned in this mental facility with how many drugs? I mean, just the psychological effects that they are, whether they're actually dangerous or not, really beside the point. For many of them, they just might have very strong powers and they've just been declared dangerous and locked up the way that Reed was sort of informing them. So with all of this, and it was done in such a short period of time, we have the question of what is it that your plan is? We have the release of the mutants. We have that cornucopia of just demonstration of powers and John's willingness to let Andy go, to let the inner circle go in order to help these mutants that are now being released out into public. And what does he even say at the very end as Cate is sort of freaking out over the radio? Is like, look, this is what we have to do. We can't do it. There are people that we have to help. And this is that heroic choice. You let go of your obsession in order to do the right thing. In this case, to help other people. So just a beautiful, small, tiny little sequence there that really, I think, summed up everything just perfectly. And of course, we have the encounter between Lauren and Andy, finally. Very quick. Everyone's standing their ground. Andy looking like he is definitely part of the inner circle. Lauren willing to stand up, not step aside for her brother in order to do the right thing, to try and stop them from getting away, to try and help her brother. I loved it. It was a great standoff. We also have the release of information there. There's sort of reveal between them that they're both having the same dream. Obviously, Lauren seeing Andy with his white hair and everything, looking as he did in the dream, that there is a reality to it, that they're both having this dream, that there is this connection, and that's something that Lauren kind of hit on throughout this episode, why she was the one that had to go and get Andy, because they had this connection. She could help. She could reach through him. She reached to him. Didn't entirely work out that well. Andy's been training a lot harder than Lauren has been, able to break through her shield and send her flying back. Knocked out, I'm sure she's okay, but again, we have to have the cost for Cate to see of what this obsession with just trying to get Andy is going to do to everyone else involved in that pursuit. But there was one little kind of interesting thing with this, is we had the episode kind of open up with the story of how the triplets went in and got Wire to take himself out. We didn't get a whole lot of words. I mean, we got some stuff from Andy and so on. Nothing really from Lauren. While, yes, it does look like Lauren and Andy have gone over to the inner circle side completely, I think it's important not to dismiss the idea that, like Marcos was warning Lorna, that these two are being manipulated, even if it's subtly in the back of their mind, that they are being pushed by the cuckoos. You have a strong set of telepaths that can easily insert ideas and concepts into people's minds. With the strength from which Andy is dedicated himself, and that Lorna is as well. Yes, they both want freedom, they want a better world for their families, but how much of that obsessive push is being manipulated mentally, directly inserted into their brains by the cuckoos. So while John's message to Cate is, look, we saw him, and even Reed was saying he was smiling when he was involved with it, how much is it actually them and how much is it them manipulated? I think that's something that we're going to be diving into a little bit more as the season goes along. And Jace, poor Jace, he's lost his wife. Well, I think he's pretty much lost his wife. Looked like she was packing a bag and throwing it in the back of the car there. I mean, maybe it was just a work bag, maybe not. but the impression sort of was, with her silent treatment, not responding to his text, the first thing she says when he calls is to stop calling. This is where Jace's obsession, this is what the price he's going to have to pay for his obsession is. He's going to finish losing his family. He already lost his kid, and his obsessive pursuit of that loss is going to cost him the rest of his family. Which, again, is a great sort of mirror to what the Struckers are going through as well. They're concerned about losing Andy could possibly cost the rest of the family as well. For Jace, he's kind of living that reality. And I feel bad. For him. I wish he would step back, but he's getting sucked in, and certainly Officer Ted Wilson isn't helping, introducing him to the Purifiers. And I am glad we're going to be diving into a little bit of the Purifiers this season. I think that they are a very scary hate group that deserves to be exposed for what it is. Especially with the line of we love our race, our country, and our families. You know, we're just good folk. It's like, yeah, the Nazis are just a gathering of people. That is what we're seeing right here. This obsessive prejudice that is masked within good righteousness. And I think it does play very well with our current society and a lot of the issues that we are dealing with. The show is not doing this unintentionally. I think they're choosing their words very importantly to sort of show the guise that this type of hate can hide in behind. That we're not hating, we just love ourselves, we just love our people. But when you love your own people to the exclusion of everyone else, that's where hate and prejudice can thrive within. So, with Jace, wish Jace didn't make that call once he saw the mutant #mutant uprising popping up. Yeah, look, it's good we get to see the Purifiers. We need to dive into that realm a little bit more. I just hope Jace doesn't buy too much into it. All right, just a couple of small things. As we were just saying, #mutant uprising, a perfect way for the inner circle to get their message across. Get the hospital staff to go on television and apologize for the unlawful imprisonment that they have done, the war crimes that they have committed against mutant kind. Perfect way to cover up what they have done and sort of open up the world to sort of get mutants to respond back, get some public pressure going on right here. So I thought that was sort of a beautiful way to wrap up that particular mission and get the word spread out there to the rest of mutants that it's time to rise up. Also, don't want to go without mentioning the beautiful sequence of going into Wire's shop. Almost scene of the week if we didn't have that other cool stuff that ended up happening in the episode. We've already had that hint from last week that John is not invulnerable, and here we got to see a little bit more of that. Just point blank shotgun shot to the chest. Yeah, it's gonna go in. It's gonna leave a little peppering on the chest right there. It was just a beautifully done sequence, and of course Graph's anger at John, why won't you die already, was just perfectly beautifully done. Again, it was a simple, quick little fight, but I love the action, I love the intensity, and I loved seeing, you know, that invulnerable people may not actually be all that invulnerable. Oh, I also liked how the team is talking. In the beginning, we have Marcos explaining how everything looks like, offering, asking for options, everyone's sort of contributing. Again, democratic process. It's a small group now, I think they can do that. But it also really shows how much this is a team as opposed to a leader and followers. Oh, and I love that Reed finally went to John to get some help. To explain that he has his mutant powers are coming out and he's going to need some help in dealing with them. Unfortunately, he is still with the idea of like, I want it stopped And John's trying to let him know straightforward, no, it's not about stopping this. It's about learning to live with it. Certainly you can't repress it. You can't repress the emotions with drugs and alcohols and things like that. We know that John has kind of gone down a little bit of that road himself. And we saw the effect that that played on Reed as well. Taking all these pills to try and suppress his emotions, kind of keep him calm so his powers don't pop out. And by the end of the episode, we saw that doesn't just work. Suppression just keeps it at bay, maybe temporarily, maybe for a moment, but when things come back, they come back uncontrollably. You have to be the person you are. You have to live as the person you are. So hopefully at this point, that means Reed will actually start to get some training. But I'm also really glad how his acknowledgement of the powers to his family has sort of brought the family together. We have that acknowledgement, that understanding that works well all around with him. So I love the strides the Strucker family has made through this episode, both in accepting their powers and acknowledging that you can't just shove them away in a corner. You're going to have to deal with them. All right, so of course the big question we have going forward now is, who'd they get? Who did the inner circle pull out of the hospital there? Who is our new super mutant? I am guessing a girl from what it looks like, certainly with the flash forwards for our next episode. But who that is and what her power set is, I'm very excited to see. But that's gonna have to wait for 2 weeks. 2 weeks, really? Yeah, it's the World Series. It's on Fox. So yeah, 2 weeks until our next episode of The Gifted. I'm going to be waiting with bated breath. Please let them keep making episodes like they did here. Beautifully done. Cannot wait to see it. And also, real quick, you guys watch Marvel movie news over on the Popcorn Talk Network? I do. I have for years. My family has been lucky enough to sit on the cosmic couch and watch the show live with the crew. And I got to go. Today was their 200th episode. 200 episodes. And I got to go and sit and chat with everyone. We talked about Venom. We talked a little bit about The Gifted. A little bit of Black Panther 2 was a blast. Did a bunch of shout outs. Coy Jandro and Amy Cassandra are wonderful people. Coy's the best. So yeah, I got a call last night to see if I could go down and join them for their 200th episode. My family being the first family of Marvel movie news. So really had a blast. I'm going to throw up a link to that right here in just a minute, so you guys can check that out. It was fun. It's always fun to go down there and chat Marvel stuff with the crew. But that's going to wrap us up for today. Thank you so much for joining me with this review. Now, if you enjoyed it, you know you can hit that like button. Thoughts, ideas, and comments, throw those down in the section below. What do you guys think of this episode? Did you like the creepiness? Did you like the pace of it? And who do you think that they pulled out of the basement there? Let me know your thoughts. Throw those down in the section below. You can always catch me on Twitter and Instagram. I am at Darren Jakes. Please subscribe. It's quick and easy. One button hit press right here. You'll catch all the rest of these reviews. Plus, we got Walking Dead. We got just so many things coming up. Don't miss any of them. And I will throw up a link to the Marvel Movie News 200th episode right here. And another review you can just check out right here. So, that's going to be it for me. I'm D, and I'm out of here. Catch you guys next time. Bye-bye.